Good day, good evening, good morning, depending on the time that you catch this video on social media. This is Plain Talk. I am Phillip Edward Alexander. Today's topic is a very interesting topic. It's one that we've been talking about, having a conversation about for the longest while. We have some people in studio with us today who are versed in helping us navigate and negotiate the thorny issue of how does race politics impact upon the development of Trinidad and Tobago. When we come back, you'll meet our panel. David Ruther put into the national conversation, how we vote is not how we party. I have said from the first time I heard that, that's not a compliment, that's an insult. It means that we as a people could love each other and celebrate with each other. But when it comes to voting, we get in our sections. And getting in our sections has been manipulated to abuse the thinking process, the critical thinking of the average person. Joining me on this panel today, I have former government minister and former head of GOPIO, the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin, Devant Maharaj.
Hi, good morning, good
morning,
afternoon.
Evening, day, depends on when they catch it. Yeah, that's the setting a protocol for that with social media is key. We also have with us today former mayor of Arima and himself, someone who is no stranger to these types of conversations, Ghassan Youseph.
Hello, good day.
With me as well, as usual, Felicia Holder, chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party.
Good day, good morning, good night, good evening, whatever.
Satish, we need a protocol.
We do.
And we have with us also former Petrotrin asset manager and an activist member of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Kim Young Lau.
A pleasant good day to everyone.
So getting straight into it, how we vote is not how we party. Gus, take the first bite now.
Yes, I mean, that's the practice in Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately. I think who's responsible for that is the way our political parties emerged. It's the politicians are responsible for that, not the people.
And I want to add to this, because I want to not lead the conversation as much as moderate it today. I have my views. But looking back at the history of the colonies and the empire's impact, the divide and rule that created Hutus and Tutsis in Rwanda, that created Hindus and Muslims in Pakistan and India, that created African Trinbagonians and Indo-Trinbagonians, oil sector checker workers, the divide and rule method worked well for the colonizers. And maybe I drag Devant in at this point. The divide and rule method worked well for the colonizers. Our first prime minister, when we changed away from the path, because we were going down a path of being a federation of states where our national identity would have been enmeshed in 10 Caribbean countries. When it became Trinidad and Tobago alone and we fast-tracked to our independence, do you think enough work was done to heal that rift that was created by the colonizers?
No, I disagree with Gus fundamentally. I don't think this is a political problem. I think there is a political expression of a problem of ethnicity, but the politician doesn't create a problem. The problem has been there. It manifests itself at various stages. I think your analysis about the colonial antecedents, sowing the seeds of divisiveness in colonialized societies such as ours, because most of these societies, people didn't choose to come here on their own.
Absolutely.
We were brought here and forced as opposed to organically migrating to societies and fostering and creating a nation state.
But some
But,
communities, some smaller communities, like the Syrian Arab Lebanese community, may have chosen to come here. Some got dropped here, tricked here, thought they were in America.
Yeah,
A lot of that went on. But anyway,
but by and large, it was an artificially created society administered by the British colonial masters, and they brought us here really for labor, right? That was our rule and the limit of our ambitions here. But when we attempted to take the ship of state, there were those who saw themselves as natural inheritors of the British, and they attempted to fill that and exclude others, because it then became an issue of the allocation of resources. And I think that's the root of the entire problem.
You're referring to our neo-colonists?
I'll leave that for you. But the allocation of scarce resources, and when you have to give it out to your support base, which may tend to be from one socioeconomic, racial...
but the PNM that went to England wasn't representative of one race.
No, but even before that, one would argue against that, because if you read the writings of H.P. Singh and others of that era, they will give you a different impression of the PNM. I don't know what impression you... Because, for example, when they first offered universal suffrage, there was a language test that the Indian community here had to fight against in order to vote. Because what they said was in the 1940s, that if you cannot speak and write English, you can't vote. And at that point in time, the population of indentured immigrants was still very much high in Trinidad, because 1917 was when they stopped immigration from India to Trinidad, when Gandhi forced that stoppage across the British Commonwealth. So between 1917 to 1940, it was only at about 30-something years, so people would have still been very much alive, still very active in the community. And the opposition then at the time had to ensure that this language barrier...
Who's the leader of the opposition?
It was, I think, was Simona Kapildeo at that point.
Was Kapildeo involved
but
in...
let me give you
Yes.
we jump forward to the 1990s, when Marcel Mahabir applied for 103 FM, which is on the air now, and he was then told, after he had gotten the license to organize the first Indian radio station, that they make a mistake, because the language of communication they didn't know was Hindi, and it only supposed to be English. And they had to argue the point that nowhere in the license agreement of that radio station stipulates language.
No, but I know that you would have been very integral to managing the response to that. But I wanted to ask you something. Was the then Indo representative opposition part of the negotiating body for independence?
They came together in Marlborough House, and there was a period of negotiations. For example,
but was that our independence committee? Were both sides represented?
The independence committee was not really a committee; it was a hodgepodge of individuals hoping to get independence, where they tried to get as much concession from the other side. Similar things happened in India, where Jinnah and Nehru were negotiating with the British for the independence of either a unified Indian state, which eventually fractured into East and West Pakistan and India. And I mean, still today we have problems at that fracture. Similarly in Trinidad, there was no difference between Simbuna Kapildeo and Eric William, albeit on a smaller scale. So that is why, for example, recently Faris had to say in Parliament that there are some things in our constitution that can be found nowhere else in the Commonwealth, because there was this area of distrust between the two parties, which reflects two ethnic groups. And it all stemmed back when the Indians were first coming here. They were projected on the Africans who had just left the plantation that they come in to take your work. So this historical antecedent of distrust.
But the work was free work. They had no pay.
No. But at that point in time, remember, slavery had ended. And
how long?
There was $4 to $6 per person per day.
Yeah, so people who wanted to work, while there were some of them who didn't want to see nothing but land and thing again. Remember, in the past, there were some who continued to work. And now you're telling me you're bringing in these cheap coolies and them coming in, and they offering
but they tried with the Chinese first.
Price.
They tried with the Chinese first. The Chinese refused to work.
No, but not only that, but
the Chinese said that they would die first.
No, but not only that, they preferred to leave the land and set up shops and go into business.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that by then, the hodgepodge African communities that were coming out of slavery knew that the landowners were still trying to find alternative cheap labor because that was the entire underpinning of the
And
industry.
the Chinese circumstance for leaving China was different. China was never a colony of Britain. You had Hong Kong alone, right? But they never had that kind of dominance that they had over India. I remember the first war of independence in India in 1857 led to great hardship on the Indian community across the subcontinent with the British East India Company. Shashi Tharoor, opposition member of parliament in the Indian Parliament right now and former Secretary General of the United Nations, wrote a book called Inglorious Empire, and he showed how the Britain really stripped away the wealth of India over the years, and especially after 1857 there was a what they call a devil wind in a lot of the literature, where they visited, I think, a great vengeance on those communities that rose up against the British Raj. So a lot of people at that point in time was coming here to escape the poverty, the artificially created famine. So they had no interest in running away from the land. They was running away from the condition at that point in time.
No, but understood, and I get that, because everybody at the time in the world, the winds of change were blowing. We're moving away from slavery, so industrialization and development in the colonies that still boasted cheap labor. But what prompted the Chinese arrival in Trinidad and Tobago? Did they take it upon themselves, or were they sought like they sought the Indians for indentureship? Were Chinese indentured?
Yeah, they were indentured. It started in 1806, and there was a need to change from the way how the plantations were run, and there was a need for them for cocoa and sugar. So it was a trial in terms of bringing in some of the Chinese, and in the first batch, I believe it was about 200. They took them from not mainland China, but more. Some of them came from even Calcutta. 50 came from Calcutta. Some came from a place called maybe Penang, and
Penang in Malaysia.
Yeah, and then they say that of course.
So it wasn't Chinese; it was Asians.
Yeah, it was, well, Asians is
We
Chinese
call them
as
Chinese.
Well. Yeah,
We have this catch-all in
Yeah.
Trinidad for Chinese, but you're saying
But well, what was said was there were mixed and unmixed Chinese. They call them that. So we had the twofold of type of Chinese, and you could see I am part half and half, half Indian, Indo-Chinese. And what they did, they bring 200, but apparently it was a failed move. It ended with the 61 Chinese going back. 192, 194, maybe by two historians. They reached in Trinidad. The boat was called Fortitude, and apparently it didn't work. They wanted to go back. Some
why
died.
it didn't work?
They didn't. Well, probably they didn't like the
environment,
the
work
work
conditions.
Yeah, the work conditions would have been
Because the
difficult,
indentured
yes.
experience has been
Yeah.
that I don't want to use the word massa, but
Yeah.
massa
Yeah.
wanted slavery to continue, even though you were paying salaries. It was still slavery conditions.
Yeah,
My
but
Form 6, sorry to interject.
Yeah, don't jump
because,
in.
No, because my Form 6 history is taking me back to that exact thing where the Chinese did not work. And I remember one of the reasons was because they weren't built for it. They were literally working in the fields, in the hot sun. They were dying out, and actually what history books say. And that's why they replaced them with the Indian labor, who was more accustomed to the climate, the heat, the weather. So
But the Chinese had a strong work ethic even back then, and they were involved in their own agriculture production and stuff. And I don't think the temperature on the environment was that much different. Is our history recording that correctly? And I'm just asking that because I don't know if history was.
I'll tell you this. One of the things when they came,
Did the Chinese revolt against indentureship? Was that
it wasn't a revolt.
No, what I mean is, was that
that
individual? Huh?
No, they wanted to go back. Apparently, it did not suit what they expected.
What they were
but
sold.
they got
The idea that they
money.
were sold.
They got money. They got a possible plot of land. But the one thing I think that I understand from the historians is that in their contract they did not get a return trip. And in 1806, they were able to go back. So about 61 of them went back, only 22. And then eventually, only 22 were alive at a later date, to about maybe
Right.
in 1810, there was only 20, and then when there's about seven was recorded.
They were
Only
In Trinidad,
seven,
yeah?
yes.
Okay, so but I'm saying this
they were
because I know that by now everybody's loving the history lessons because a lot of good stuff. But we still need to come fast forward to August 31st, 1962.
Well,
Because even though we need to know all the ways and means by which we all arrived here,
Yeah.
the reality is everything that we have been dealing with as a nation since has been decisions made by us in a democratic system.
no, but if you don't go back to 1962, go back to last year, when the government
2018.
political party had a family day. They saw no other use but to have somebody dress up in a yellow sari
Right.
and,
So right.
and denude her in front of everybody. And,
No, I hear your point, and
we had to organize a protest outside the office. And now, hear what the Prime
so
Minister
was
did.
that racist?
No, but hear what the Prime Minister did. He stood up in somewhere in some meeting and he said, listen, I consult the 2 or 3 Indian I have in my cabinet. And they said, no
They
problem.
was okay with
They
that.
was okay with that. And
Okay,
then
so
afterwards,
you're
now,
making
he
the
had a
point.
meeting in Arima, right? To say, listen, I was moved by what some Indian woman organization writing. And he now realized
He was wrong.
that this had a religious connotation, it had a racial connotation, and therefore he apologized. Fast forward to this year, where they now open an office in Central Trinidad. So how could we have a kind of schizophrenia
Okay, but
in our
but
society?
what you're talking about is important in the conversation. But I still have to take us back to the start.
Yeah.
Because at some point we went from everybody together seeking independence because the Federation of Caribbean States collapsed. So we put together a committee, and that committee focused on getting independence for Trinidad and Tobago. Where along the way did it become African at the expense of India?
Because of independence.
Because of independence.
Because I will tell you,
How long after that?
the Jose riots of 1884, right, where the first time and perhaps the only time in Trinidad history where 22 Trinidadians of both Indian and African descent were killed because they jointly protested against a British position against a cultural expression, Jose, right? And they had British warships outside Trinidad and so on, ready to come on board, and they killed those people there. I mean, I lobbied for a memorial for years on that. Then you had coming up to the water riots, and they had the Kambuli riots.
Yeah, but that's not the first time.
The Kambuli riots was in the same year of
That's not
1884.
but then
But-
if you want to have that conversation,
But
we had indigenous people before
yeah,
who were slaughtered as well to make way.
the Capuchin monastery. But you see, at that up to that point in time, we were all united against our animosity towards the colonial masters. When they say, listen, we handing it over to all you know, then everybody take a side.
But was the colonizers the vision of the society? I remember we used
no,
to-
but it was because when
was
you
that
had,
was
when,
that continued
It was
by
continued.
Eric Williams? Eric Williams is now the Prime Minister of
no, but
Trinidad and Tobago.
look, Eric Williams came there
You
because
read
of,
his-
because of the colonizers. When they had the election of the Legislative Council, Badis won it.
Yeah.
Is the Governor General who introduced 2 other nominated members who supported Williams as the Chief Minister.
Even from the very start, our politics has had racist overtones. Yes?
Yeah, that's because
The
it's,
2 major races were used against each other to facilitate the continuation, because it is my position that when the Union Jack came down and the red, white, and black went up, Ghassan, as a businessman, all of the business of Trinidad and Tobago continued as normal. Nothing changed.
And you know,
The ruling elite were the moneyed class.
that's
Yeah?
correct.
That
Yeah.
didn't change.
No, that didn't change. And I want to go back to the Devant point that he gave a history how we end up with the 2 major races. But why we continue to be divided is not of our political leaders.
no, I say no. It's because of the allocation of resources. As the
Well, you
res-
see,
as
no,
the resources
no,
come
that's
scarce
chicken and
elsewhere.
egg.
Yeah.
That's chicken and egg. Because because the political directorate has what Lloyd Best used to call the cash register and the police. Yeah, whoever is the prime minister has that control, and it shouldn't be that our entire political expression is a fight for we time now. What we're trying to identify in this conversation, though, I'm trying to keep it there, is at what point was a decision made, because the original PNM had East Indians among them, El Mahabir, Kamal and Mohammed. At what point did they get into the politics? At what point did it become, let us continue the division of the races? At what point did we get to a ruling class and a recalcitrant minority? Remember that statement?
April 1st, 1958.
1958.
After the Federation election. Bodies won that one as well.
So we were already in control of our racist division 4 years before we became independent.
Actually, it started from the legislative election.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. And I want everybody to hear this. But Gus is asking a question. And that question has to be asked. Why do we as a people allow it to continue when we know it is what is being used against us to our detriment?
I say we don't know. We don't know because we at the end
masses.
At the end of the day, everybody trying to see what they can get. It's not I don't blame the politician, because when you go to any supporter out there, regardless of what party you belong to, they looking to see our HDC house, URP contract. I mean, it's once you get into
sweeties of the state.
I mean,
once you get into politics, you get a very jaded view of people.
You can't blame the politicians, but you have to admit that they have taken advantage.
No, you see, the
of
politicians.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you said it earlier. We time now. That was a slogan.
The politicians are the people that the society throws up. The politician doesn't come from a space, you know.
That is a correct point. That is a correct point. But we time now never really. And that's a point I think you're trying to make, that it never really redounds to the benefit of those who think it's their time now.
Exactly. But you have, and I went on an interview earlier this year, and the interviewer, Hema Ramkissoon, asked me, what is the PEP's base? And by that question, she meant which race majority supports our party. And that is what we know in terms of politics. We know if you're Indian, you support the UNC, or if you're black, you support the PNM. However, just like Phillip was saying, regardless of whether the PNM or the UNT is in power, who is really benefiting? And we say we time now, but I did elections last year. We time now, we still have the same garbage, we still have the same rodent problem, we still have the same struggle for water.
In my view, there's a erosion of institutions, because if you had, regardless of the parties that work, institutions that were strong, independent, they would have been able to provide some sort of refuge and places we could go to. But what you have had is the systemic erosion or
erosion? Was it ever set up?
No.
The last time we got it on this table, we were discussing Denny's claim that Indians were purged from the SSA. The Minister of Communication and National, is he still Communication and National Security?
Donna Cox.
Donna Cox's Communication. No, I can't take that slide. The Minister of National Security, Stuart Young, just told the nation, yes, there was a purge, but it was mostly Africans. You see where I'm going with this?
So, it's the same language?
Same
So he's saying the same thing, but the opposite.
Exactly.
So, and
What is that? Who is that supposed to appease?
I want to know.
Who is that supposed to make happy?
If you want to find out how, go on some of them Facebook page, you go see all the people saying yes, they do the best thing out. Right? Because I seen it.
But
I saw some people saying, listen, they fire Indian because when you check it was only 22 African get fired and 22 Indian and 70 Africans. So really, more African get fired. So what are they talking
What
about?
was the percentage of Indians in the SSC
He don't
at
want
the
to get
time?
about it.
He don't want to answer those questions.
What I want to say, I remember in the 90s, a present member of parliament, not any parliament, told me, I remember he told me this. He said, Pandey is not a racist, Manning is not a racist, but they use race to their own end and their own benefit.
I don't know. I have a different view because from my vantage point I've seen.
You're going to make me put you on the spot, You're going to make me ask you, what did any government that you were a part of Not
Only one
not-
government that was a part of it.
Okay, right. So then,
I don't like it, Ghassan. He was a part
but,
of
no,
it.
but you know, I'm going to ask you this question. Then.
Yeah.
If you disagreeing with Gus, but you were part of a government, what action, not phrases, not fancy sounding terms like national unity, what actions were put in place over the term that government was in office to undo this?
No, I remember I joined the government after the first year. Wasn't in the first batch.
Yeah.
And when I got in there, I saw in terms of the.
But you were involved. They had you on a state board in
I
PTSC.
we won election in May 2010.
Right.
I wasn't appointed until December 2010 on PTSC.
PTSC.
So 6 months afterwards, and then
So
in
you were
June,
one of Jack Warner's team.
Yeah, I was supporter Jack.
Right.
Right.
What did the UNC People's
No,
Partnership
what
government
I can
do
tell you in
the time? But they were there for 5 years and 6 months.
No, but in terms of, let's say, composition of state boards, when that came up the cabinet for ratification, the prime minister took the position it had to represent Trinidad. So it had to have women, it had to have a balance of the ethnicities, it had to have, right?
What
When
was
you-
put
no,
in place
no,
to make a system that would guarantee, and that's what Gus asked. Gus said that there are no systems, and I agree that
No, but these are governance issues. You can't.
you said there was an erosion of
Yes.
systems. Were there ever systems to protect people from being mistreated because of race?
Remember, the Equal Opportunities Commission came about under the Pandey administration. When it was enacted and passed by law, it was then former Attorney General Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj had to take it to the Privy Council because the then PNM refused to enact it. The Integrity Commission, which was passed in the Republican
Have you read it since?
Constitution.
Have you read the act
I have
since?
complaints there. I have complaints there. Right? The Integrity Commission was passed in the Republican Constitution, which the PNM failed to enact. It only when the NAR came into power, it came into being. So all of the
No, I understand that, and you
what-
could say that the
No,
NAR
but-
is the one who brought
no,
the
but
media
I
and
want-
gave us
I-
radio license.
I want to go on the Judicial Review Act, the Freedom of Information Act, which PNM presently try to roll back, are all issues of trying to strengthen the democratic institutions of the day. And I could go on.
And I could
you
acknowledge,
know.
and I want to say this, I was there in the parliament when the People's Partnership government revoked the criminal defamation statute. And I remember that. And I'm thinking to myself, this current government is so anti-freedom of speech. If that was still a law on the books, everybody in trouble.
No, I think by us sitting down talking this talk here, Gary Griffith could walk in here and lock up all of we for sedition. You know?
Just for this conversation?
Yeah, that's
Which-
because the definition of sedition
It's
is
so
so
broad.
ambiguous
It's-
and
But
vague.
how many of our laws aren't? I watched when this boy was charged for making his statement, and I know
Jonathan Mohammed? Jonathan Mohammed has been charged for sedition in Trinidad and Tobago for putting up a post on Facebook, you know.
this
He is
the-
before the
This is
courts
the
now.
one
you
this,
know.
for the-
but
on the
I didn't know he had a
Prime Minister?
Christian name.
Yeah, Jonathan
What's
Mohammed.
his actual name on Facebook?
Yeah, Jonathan Mohammed.
His name wasn't Jonathan. What
His,
are we dealing with somebody else?
His attorney right now is Anand Ramlogan.
But the point is it that we have laws that could be manipulated to silence free speech? I mean, as somebody who's had, and I want to say, under the People's Partnership government, I was most vocal. I was most vocal because I had come back into politics in Manning's last 2 years. So by the time the People's Partnership was in government, I had a strong voice, and I was most vocal against the People's Partnership. And for the entirety of the People's Partnership government, I never even had a wrong discussion. People who knew that I kept fire to their feet would see me in public and laugh and joke and extend their hand. Under this government, I have been attacked, as character assassinated. I have had about 6 pre-action protocol letters. I have been taken to court for multiples of defamation.
You win or you lost?
I raised the issue. That is another thing. We have a situation in this country where the behavior of the court is protected. So you can't even speak about that. This is not a real democracy as yet. Trinidad and Tobago is democracy in about the 3 minutes that it takes for you in the booth to choose who you're voting for. But when you come out of that booth, whichever person has office. This morning, my parish priest, he wrote me and he asked me, what are we putting in place to prevent anybody coming to office just doing what has been done before? And I said, we have to build it. We don't have it. We've never had it. We've never had proper law, proper systems. You're talking about antecedents. You're talking about history. If you compare Trinidad and Tobago to first world nations, I watch Donald Trump become president, most powerful man in the world. I watch Kathy Griffin with an effigy of himself on the head.
She's been blacklisted after that.
She may have been blacklisted, but she wasn't charged.
No.
She wasn't sued for defamation. And I'm saying that it takes a lot in countries that take their freedom of speech, because all your rights are attached to freedom of speech. If you don't have the freedom of expression, and the Constitution gives us that 3 times.
You see, as Thomas Jefferson said, the tree of liberty had to be watered with the blood of patriots. Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and the American...
And that patriots, the job of the patriot is to protect this country from its government.
So the American whole reason for being is one of that kind of intense individualism and liberty and freedom of
But we carry ourselves like little New York City. Why don't we want that for ourselves?
Our history is a colonial history.
No, but
they revolted violently and had a war with Britain. They fought war.
But we like to pretend we did too.
We fight a paper bag in Trinidad. We have this thing with memorial.
But we burned down the Red House.
Yeah.
What was that for?
Yeah,
Water?
That's ourselves.
Philip,
We want
I
water.
could bring all you back a little bit.
You can bring us anywhere
Yeah,
you
I could bring you back.
Jump in.
What I want to show you all is that you're looking for a solution or idea what is causing this separation of the...
No, we know it's
of
greed.
Well, right.
Greed and
exactly. Exactly.
Right.
That is basically what has happened. When you go to a party, good? What's in it for me? What am I looking for?
A political party
No,
or a free
I'm
drinks
talking
party?
about a party where everybody enjoying themselves. A
Right.
party where we are enjoying
fete?
ourselves. That's what David Rod is talking about. We party, you know. So everybody there, and they're for different things. One guy, he wants as much free drink as he could get, or whatever. Another guy is looking at the nice ladies, good? Or the
Why
ladies
look at
looking
me?
at the, yeah, well, I'm saying.
You
Other
can't,
people
you
came
can't
for the
leave out the
music.
guys who looking at the guys because they
Well,
will
they
say...
can't- I want you to leave that out, you know,
But
but
you
anyway,
can't,
but
you
you
can't.
can't, right? But there are people who come for the music. They come to hear good music and they come to have a good time. They come to with family
Yeah,
and
but
friends.
they're not saying that
So-
I'm not going to this fete or I'm not going to that fete because they might have different people of different color.
No,
They're not saying that.
They're enjoying. What I'm saying, everybody's enjoying.
Everybody
Everybody is enjoying because
Kurt
they see.
Allen said every creed and race get to find a whining space.
Right, and I'm saying
was-
that within that festival, be it carnival or whatever, and we're seeing that everybody enjoying themselves. They're getting what they think. Now, when it comes to the politics, saying what is in it for me, the person looks now and he says, wait a minute, what could I get from this political party? What could I get from that political party? And therefore, I am being led by what I could get. Devant said that. Exactly
Yeah,
what
but no,
I
but,
could
they,
get.
but no, that is an oversimplification because
It is.
all I'm saying to you with respect is that I mean the latest thought and meme and idea floating around social media is the idea that the tree keeps voting for the axe because the handle is made of
Yes,
wood.
Exactly.
And that they
Right.
think that if they vote for that,
Yeah.
they will be safe.
Yes. And do you know what I'm saying is
And
that
you see that the point is the axe and the tree don't realize they come from the same wood, and
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And
Something in Trinidad and Tobago, and I want to introduce this now, is more powerful than racism. And I think that racism, political racism, is being used as a tool.
it's the two.
Nice.
It's the, I agree.
What
It's the
is
two.
that thing? So
That-
we know
When you said it.
greed and
You
power.
said it. Greed and
Who
power.
wields power in Trinidad and Tobago that would keep the masses so foolish?
You see what happens as the economy continues to be mismanaged and deteriorate. You would find these differences in the national community exacerbated because people now under pressure for bread and butter issues, right? So, they would say, listen, if I do support party X or party Y, things will get worse for me.
But all of them
Yeah.
have two party cards.
You know? No, I don't know.
All of them have two party cards. The best picture.
Let me say, I believe that Trinidad governments are controlled by two sectors of the community.
The Syrian and who?
Well, I don't know. Some high-class money people that have access to every cabinet minister, doesn't matter which
Absolutely,
side.
it's not just Syrians.
No,
Because I
no,
watched.
what I'm saying, and they have access to any cabinet minister, whether it's from the UNC or the PP or the PNM and the prime minister. They have access to both, because when they give you $1 million or $2 million, you have to listen to them, and they insist that they give it to the political leader, whether in opposition or in government. They do that.
I'd love to
What
hear
do you-
Devant's response.
You understand? The second sector that control is the cult. That the government satisfy them by giving them URP, CPEP, and both sectors.
No. The second one, I disagree. I'll tell you why. Satisfying the cult for their vote is a different thing to controlling the government. The cult don't control the government. If you watch the UNC's cult, they're continuously revolting because the UNC's cult, I want to say, a lot of them have had access to a little more education, and they understand.
They have
That
one
in
mobile
itself
now.
is racist.
Well, that's
You
why.
see,
That's why they
I-
are less.
I-
Is it or is it a fact though?
No, you do a survey. How many
It's
people you
not a
poll in the
survey,
PNM?
but
You can't say PNM people less educated than PNM.
Indeed. And you're correct to say that. So I don't know what to tell
You
you.
do no poll.
All right. So and I swear to you, there are television
Because-
shows. If I was on, Fazil Mohammed would have asked me that exact question.
No, because I tell you, he and I was part of one party.
But-
Watch, he and I, we believe we were the best party. We was the most educated party. We pulled thousands of people, right? The only third party to pull the most amount of votes, we didn't get a seat.
That's
What party is that?
COP.
Congress of the people.
Congress is.
I went to
You always
Fukuba,
hear-
yeah, he was my colleague in crime then. You know, when we full up Watford Square, we had the brightest and the best.
Yes.
It had nobody
What
brighter.
the Congress of the People represented in Trinidad, I didn't know. I didn't remember.
He was a candidate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what the Congress of the People represented in Trinidad and Tobago, the idea of the Congress of the People did not escape those same controllers.
No, but yeah, listen.
But you agree with what I said?
No, I disagree
The same,
with
but I
you.
want to tell you something. After the People's Partnership came into office, you ever came to any of the COP Sunday morning caucuses?
Yeah.
And listen to the arguments about when we get in URPs and when we get in CPEPs and when we get in state boards. It sounded just like inside the PNM. It sounded like the purpose for the COP.
Because let me tell you why. Yeah? And I just get this is my review. I subject to correction. Is that when the PNM in power, everybody else get excluded. Even PNM and the people who in the PNM who not aligned to but the particular power brokers. So like people right now who are Manning supporters, dog better than them in the PNM, right? So when these people now finally come into power,
That's why Penny and Amory so far away from the
yeah,
country.
keep them out of the trouble.
Eh?
Right? But so when they finally come into office now, they're trying to figure, well, okay, there's a need for them to get what they were denied an equal chance to get, because you talk to so many people and they were turned down from. Look at when I had to take the government to court with National Lottery. I went for an interview as deputy director of the NLC. Passed the interview, most qualified. Was recommended by the Service Commission to fill the post. It was then sent to the Prime Minister, Patrick Manning. He said, Devant, not he, cross me out. What crime did I commit? What disqualified me other than I did not share the same political party card than the Prime Minister? And that, imagine that happening 100-fold, because it happened to Firoza Ramjan, Ganga Prasad Kisoon.
Yeah, but see, I don't want to, because,
So-
and I want to say,
So,
there was supposed to be another guest on the show today, Devant Maharaj, and he was supposed to bring another perspective to the conversation, and unfortunately he got caught up in another issue that he was dealing with. So that I can't just allow, even though everything that you're saying I know for a fact
these
is
are
a fact. I just
court
said,
records.
no, I'm not
This is
saying,
historical facts.
I'm not saying it's not fact. What I'm saying to you is, I am sure the other side have some of those things that they could say too. Now, I understand also this, and I say this without fair contradiction. The PNM has set this tone in this country. The PNM is the one.
That's what I want to come back to that, because PNM was in power from 56, even before independence, to 86. And it is recorded not a single Hindu was in their cabinet. That's what Devant?
When Pandey had to
So
be sworn in,
the
that
other
was not Fela
side,
Gita.
everybody other than PNM were left out and felt left out. So when the NAR came, was a little, I will not say that fully because they had big fights within the first year. They were fighting over state boards, who by names, there were problems. Anyway, so the other government that came under the PNM become a reactionary government is we time now because that was their time. And nobody up to now have been able to take this country,
Are we at that
sacrifice enough to say, listen, we have to sacrifice
Okay.
and we have to treat everybody equal.
So,
We have not reached that stage yet.
Okay, but we've had the Pandey UNC experience. We had the Kamla Prasad Bisasa UNC experience. And there are people, like you just said, tongue-in-cheek, who would say that because the PNM has run roughshod over the country for so long, that there is almost a justification for them doing we time now. I want to say this to you, on a larger way of thinking. If you ever wanted to unite the country, because Gandhi said an eye for an eye and soon the whole world is blind. If everybody react to what the last person did, because under Pandey and the airport experience and under Kamla and some of those other things that I don't want to talk about right now because whatever's before courts or whatever, but the other side gets to say McCarthy was right. All are we ready thief, and that any government you're putting off. So now trying to introduce a conversation, because you all as former members of the Congress of the People would be willing to talk about offering the people an alternative. But now the entire population is jaded. We're going to tell you we tried. We give the People's Partnership constitutional change in power. What change?
Let me tell you something, I have experience in this. Some of those people, same people who pontificate now, will pontificate that we need to do this and idealistic position and we had to fight corruption, we had to do this. It's the same people when we was in office quietly telling you, see, make sure she satisfied the requirement. I think, but you see, for me, try and
Absolutely.
right?
A lot of
And
Trinbagonians who make the most noise.
I experienced that.
No, but I do as well. I mean, when you're in politics as long as and activism as long as we are, you get to see people, your public face and your private face, a lot of the times is not the same face.
It's a fella now masquerading with a political party, not yours, he was one of the people calling for CPAP contract all the time, and he goes on a platform, his platform, which he has meetings and saying that, we have to do this and it has to be transparent. And but when he was in a position, before he resigned from the position, he was busy lobbying for CPAP contract for his people. So how it is you had this ideal that you articulated before, but when you came into the corridors of power, that ideal is only a public facade, and now you come back into opposition, you exposing that same ideal which you had abandoned when you were in power.
I had a question, and I thought of it earlier when somebody mentioned it, but why is the conversation always about CPAP and ERP contracts
Merge them.
and not economic diversification and spreading the wealth across the nation? Why do we always think in such small numbers when, if you think macroeconomics, this country, where we should be and where we are right now, it's a vast country.
I agree. I feel
And we
CPAP and ERP should be
no, but we're fighting over these little crumbs when on a whole the country.
I think
John Rahal's argument to shut down
I saw Patman.
Carney, South Parkman, to shut down Carney, his argument to shut down Carney is a better argument to shut down CPAP and URP.
No, but what about the
It's the same argument that is losing, but at least Carney was producing sugar.
What is the argument to close down Petrotrin? Why we keeping URP?
I want to answer a question. Who do we go to in this country? Because it's only when you try to use Freedom of Information Act and other laws to force the government to behave lawfully. Who do we go to and say, okay, Jones P. Madeira, when he published Chutney Rising, sedition is first and foremost about what you publish. The headline of the Trinidad Guardian, the day Bastio Pandey was named Prime Minister, was Chutney Rising. If anything was divisive, racially, and separated the people, why wasn't Jones P. Madeira, who was the owner of the Trinidad Guardian at the time, When Alwyn Chong and the rest of them had to resign.
Jones never owned the Guardian.
No. I'm asking you who was the owner.
Same owners.
Same owners now.
Yeah.
At that time, Sabgad already by Macau.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he was the owner. I'm asking a question. How come that which could have caused civil unrest at a time when this was the first time we were going to try a different ethnicity as Prime Minister, why wasn't Jones P. Madeira, Alwyn Chow, and Anthony Sabga charged with sedition?
Because nobody recognizes
Nobody,
that
yes.
problem.
Exactly.
It's like
That is not true.
No.
Pandey's famous,
No, but-
that's insulting, that damaged the
No,
Guardian.
let me tell you why. Because those who occupy the Port of Spain media houses come from one socio-economic group, and they don't. Some of them don't know nothing past the lighthouse.
No,
And
but
they don't
forget
care.
that, because
No, but
journalism
if-
doesn't
if-
take, journalism
no,
in this
but-
country doesn't take the actual country.
No, but hear this. We don't have journalism in this country.
Okay.
We have something that passes for journalism, right?
And-
I want you to
and-
take you all back a little bit to what Devant said. And you see, we could be scrambling at straws, but at the end of the day, it come back to Singapore, the Singapore model. One of the things in Singapore model, a guy said, what works? He says the first thing, you want honest people, which
No, but
seems to be a,
if
I
we
guess
carry the
evident.
Singapore model to the extent, Singapore pay every minister over $1 million, right?
No, yeah, well,
and if they
guys,
catch your thief in, that's a different story,
Yeah,
because you have no
yes.
reason to thief.
Okay, but
You
all
can't
of a
choose-
sudden,
you can't choose
everybody
to
in
go.
Trinidad,
But
all of a sudden,
no, but I just
all
want
of
to
us,
share.
no,
I
but
just
I
wanna
want to
share.
say, no, I want to say this to you. All of a sudden, everybody in this country know Lee Kuan Yew. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
everybody know. We talking about it for years. I want to tell
Yeah.
you, there are different models that you could use.
No,
you
but
could
I'm-
use the
I'm-
Dubai experience. You could use the Finland
I wanna come back
experience.
to his
but here
own,
this
what he said.
We quote the Singapore model and the Dubai model, but we only look at the material.
The sweet part of it.
But,
But
Singapore is one of the most racist countries
And
in the world.
totalitarian
I wanted
as well.
to tell you something. I
And
wanted
so
to tell you
also
something.
Dubai.
So Dubai,
I've
all
been
the
to Dubai for the past
Totalitarian, yes.
couple of years, twice, three
The
times.
formula the guy said, which caught my
the
attention.
beach and the road and thing.
No. Is pragmatism. The word pragmatism, in terms of the context he used it
Yes,
for,
but you are
was he using what works?
You are
But
divorcing it.
It does not mean he said what works. They separate your race. Good. He said it separates your religion. So if this works, good, we're going to use it. No, that's what he said.
Kim, I
That's
want
what
to
he
tell
said.
you.
Yeah.
I want to tell you.
So
like,
if we-
like you, I have conveniently used the Singapore model. But what
No.
they're saying, and you have to understand this: Singapore, how your rights are in that country is not the same as Trinidad.
Exactly. Well, I know that part.
And
What
but
they
we
could
also
do, we
have
can't do it.
We
Yeah.
also having this conversation, and I don't think we.
And they have race in Singapore, Malay,
Yeah,
the
they have
Chinese,
all
and
the
Indian.
I
races.
don't think we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater to come from being a corrupt, racially divided society. We don't need to become a totalitarian dictatorship to fix it.
Yeah.
And I am just saying that to be all trying to understand. All of a sudden, it's become something to quote, and people in this country don't read. They don't go and research history. Lee Kuan Yew solve some problems, yes, and as Devant said, we look at the things that we want to take away. You know the people who
Yeah,
conveniently
exactly.
read the Bible?
Yes, sir, yes.
There are people who conveniently
No,
read the Bible, you know,
yeah,
they will
yeah.
quote that Bible for you.
Yes.
But they have things in it that they don't want to read, and they don't
Exactly.
want you to say.
But I'm just saying that what works. No, pragmatism using the what works. Is that wrong? Using what works. In other words, I mean, I went to interview already in Petrotrin, and I was told who going to get the position. We were told what we have to do. Another guy told me in PSEL. He says he went to these meeting for interviewing somebody,
You're-
and he was instructed who he has to who they have to
You're
appoint.
removing my restraints, you know. You're removing my restraints. I said today that I was going to practice the art of moderation. But I want to ask, you think the 41 in the parliament is the best and the brightest of us?
No.
You think the cabinet, this cabinet or the last one, is the best and the brightest of us?
Yes, I was in the last game. What's wrong with you?
Speak for yourself. Trinidad and Tobago has never, I say this now, Trinidad and Tobago, because of the racist divide, Maxi Coffee, the day after election, Gary Griffith told me we had come up with a communications plan that allowed the government to keep the people informed. Gary and I were working on that. Gary told me, take it to Maxi. Maxi Coffee was not a stranger to me. Maxi Coffee was my editor at the Mirror. Maxi Coffee and I met once a week. I was the only columnist in the Mirror that was published in both the weekly and the weekend edition. Maxi Coffee said to me on the phone, Philip, the government can't do no business with you. I said, why? He said, you run against the leader. I said, Maxi, I ran as an independent. You can't even blame me for any hatred between the PNM and he said, it doesn't matter. What difference is a fact? Whatever is a fact. And there are things that went on in this country since that could have been helped. I'm not selling my services. I have no interest in doing any business with the state. But the point I'm trying to make is there are a lot of people who could make this country better. We, in lieu of representing and leadership.
Yeah, but how are you going to get them better? You see, the problem is, Philip.
That's a good question.
No,
Don't ask an answer.
No, let me
ask the table.
I'm giving here. A lot of people feel that we in the days of medieval society where I feel I is the best and everybody telling me I is the best. So I am appointed and anointed to be in leadership position.
And it shouldn't be so.
They don't want to go up and if we can't believe in democracy in one instant that we have to listen to the people.
Devant, it should be demonstrable.
The person we want to lead, we had to come from outside or had to be appointed. He doesn't want to face the electorate.
No, but you see, if the electorate is making its decisions on, I wanna say the wrong reasons. If you're
so
voted,
then you're questioning the democracy. So people when
I'm not
Trump,
questioning
when,
democracy.
When
That
Trump,
is where we come back.
No,
We come
when
full
Trump,
circle.
when Trump win the election, people start a riot. I think, but you see a democratic country, the democracy threw up Trump.
And you're absolutely correct.
Right?
So the point is, and NACTA's last poll, they said more than 50% of the population now.
And NACTA poll say that we lost in Barataria.
See, and that's how Trinidad works. That we love or we hate depending on if it works for us. And I understand that, but you don't need NACTA to tell you that the vast majority of people not interested in the politics of race anymore. That we, and it devolves to us. It devolves to the people who've taken on the responsibility to stand up.
I don't think people sit down and have discussions about race and if that is motivated. I have never heard it as a discussion why we should vote X or Y or Z. I don't know if you have. I haven't.
I follow threads that you put out, and commenters who come on that thread attack you for the sole reason that you're Devant Maharaj, former government minister of the People's Partnership. The same Devant Maharaj, if you today were to put a balize on your picture and say you are PNM, today, those same people, I watching the Heliconia Foundation. I was a communication advisor for Gary Griffin. And the Heliconia Foundation, which is the junior PNMites, the Balize bunch, that used to assassinate Gary morning, noon, and night. His clothes, his girlfriends, what he wearing, how his face looking, how he talking. Love him. Putting out, I'm watching the Heliconia Foundation putting out testimonies to Commissioner Griffith. I watch Gypsy cuss in the morning, love in the evening. Everybody who crossed the floor.
No, but that may not be our issue. You just prove my point. That the issue wasn't race. You're attacking me because I am.
But the issue.
No, but if I go PNM, they would support me.
Ghassan,
tell me
as somebody who's neither know. Am I wrong in what I am saying?
No, you are not.
No, but the point is. But
I want Ghassan to weigh in on this because Devant, I'm telling you, you saying that I've not polled it. I'm saying to you, a lot of the people that attack you, a lot of the people who attack Devant Maharaj for what Devant Maharaj is saying
because the politics
would change. This is not politics.
No, you're just proving it because you're saying they would change a position if I put on a balize.
Okay.
So therefore, the determining factor wasn't my race, but my political affiliation.
So then you're saying that the solution is all of us join PNM?
No, I'm not saying that.
Not necessarily.
I'm not saying that
PNM
because it have it on the other side. It have it for your supporters.
Correct.
It have it for
Correct.
ex-supporters.
Yeah, but correct.
So the issue is not race. It's
Let me tell you what
Felicia, the issue is not race.
I believe it's race because as much as you can join the PNM is still known to hold a strongly majority African base.
People
so when
tend
Clarence Rambarat is in the PNM,
his wife is African, so probably
Maxi Coffee says zebras like to drink with zebras, gazelles like to drink with
But no, but we raising an important point though, Philip, because while we fighting about race and we fighting about who voting for who, and if I black and I Indian, at the top there, they don't see race, they all beg.
Absolutely.
But
So is
that
Devant
is-
correct? Is Devant correct? We've organized the society and thrown up racist
I
once.
think we have
Yeah,
the
I just-
society. yeah.
Syria and
Yeah.
Lebanon still at war?
Well,
Syria had war.
Is
Syria
Syria-
with itself.
Is Syria and Lebanon still at war?
Yes.
Because in Trinidad and Tobago we have a Syrian Lebanese association.
Yes.
So we are I will never argue with you that we are a complete contradiction of errors. But the question remains, racist voting has divided the nation to a point where it's self-fulfilling.
No, but
That
let-
whoever started it, you understand my point?
Yes.
No,
That
but let me
whoever
talk to what Felicia was saying. At no point in time I have ever seen anybody say, well, join the PNM because I is African, or join the UNC because I is Indian. People on their own volition.
It
we
is
care
practice.
about you.
It is practice.
Conrad
It's
Enel,
not
Conrad
fair.
Enel will vote for us because we care
No,
about
but
you.
he has said we vote for you because
Brother
we
man,
care
I
about
was
you
wrong
because
in
you're
politics when Team Unity took we come too far to turn back now.
African. That is a lie. I'm telling you, that was a manufacturing.
I done.
of-
But was there a
of,
statement? Was
Pandey.
there? Okay.
No, I was there. I was supporting
I didn't talk. I didn't.
Ramesh.
I didn't
tell
say.
you,
I
was there.
didn't.
I voted for Team Unity.
I was.
I didn't use. You didn't let me finish. The statement we come too far to turn back now is what I said.
Yeah.
That
But
was
they
a statement.
twisted it.
Yeah, I know they twisted it, but I'm saying, and Ghassan is saying to you, that when Conrad Enel look in the camera and say steady course, we care about you.
So you are speaking.
Who
about-
is he speaking to?
speaking to any supporters? You are saying that that's
Let
a
me say-
coded message.
Can I say something here?
That's what I'm saying. It's a coded message.
While Devant says that the democracy, I am saying the democracy we are practicing taking us down the tube.
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't work.
We have to find a
It
different
does not
system.
work.
We have to
And,
find a democratic
uh,
system. I believe in democratic
No,
system. Where I came from in Syria, dictatorship, and 10% of the population control the 23 million. Because
That's
of,
a book either.
no, war,
No, I-
killing
No,
people.
but
I have a
Trinidad-
question for Ghassan.
So
After this.
even here we practicing
But
it in a democratic
I
way.
just want to say this.
We are
Trinidadians
practicing.
are begging now. They're saying they want a benevolent dictator.
Yeah.
They-
Because we are practicing
they
some
want Lee
kind
Kuan
of
Yew.
sexual,
They want Fidel
sexual
Castro.
democracy. That's what we are practicing. We need to move away. We need to change the system. We
Proportional
need to break up.
representation.
The reason why, gentlemen, the
Whatever, we
reason
need to
why,
think about it. I will say mix.
Proportional representation.
Probably mix. Probably
I am
mix.
supportive of
Yeah.
proportional.
Supportive of
Yeah,
proportional.
yeah.
Which model?
I would. I
mix-
support
I'm-
mix.
a
I
mixed
support
Mixed model.
Mixed
And you say
model.
you want to answer
I
this.
see that will
Well,
take
I
away
was
from
gonna
the
ask-
constituency business and all that.
All of that for sure. We'll get into that. in
And
a
smaller
minute.
parties will have
But
a
let
voice.
Felicia.
No, we're talking about race a lot, and but for the perspective of black and Indian, you're neither. So what did you
I
vote
am
who
saying
you
we
vote
need
for?
to change the system. We need, as he
No,
said,
no, I'm
purpose-
asking you. You're
Yeah.
neither black, you're neither Indian, and we're talking a lot about race from those two perspectives. For
Yeah.
you, what motivates you and who you vote for?
me.
Yes.
Oh.
I think that's an intensely personal question.
No, no,
I don't think you should put him on the spot.
I will
That is a good
respond. I will
yeah,
respond.
that is a good question.
I will tell you. I came here in 1970. I'm not a born Trinidadian. I was born in Syria. I was 15 years old. And I was very close with the John Rahan, extremely close. We used to work together. But I saw PNM destroying this country since then.
Absolutely.
I saw once Eric William made a speech where he's showing off his people taking a plane to go and shop in Miami in the good days in the 70s with the boom. And I have a brother-in-law here who used to go and sell in the countryside. And he told me he go in those shacks and he see a big fridge inside. And he asked them, how you get the fridge inside? They break down the door to get the fridge inside and a car outside. You know when the hard times come, the fridge spoiled, they couldn't fix it, and the car break down, and they're still in the same shop. Since then, I was anti-PNM.
I want to tell you why I asked that question, and I'm sorry if it was intrusive.
Yeah.
I asked that question because I am, black, and I grew up in a family where you voted PNM because you were black, and I'm saying you're neither. So from young, it was instilled in me that PNM was the answer because you're black.
So I saw
I've never
PNM
voted.
taking advantage of their own supporters.
Thank you, and I did not see that until later when I turned my back on it and I said, okay, being black does not mean that I'm going to benefit. And
That's
being
how I
black
turned
does not
against
mean
PNM.
The double
My
threat
whole
of
life.
Stuart Young and Nicole Young did
My
not
whole
help that
life.
one. She should have won.
My whole life has been against PNM.
Let me answer that question, right? Because I look from a different perspective. I look at voting and that's a personal view, what I could get and what the country could get in terms of good results. Good? I want to deflect a little bit. One of the things that we do in whatever we do in activities, we go after the prize. And we don't all necessarily stick to the rules of the game to get the prize. And if that prize is political power, we maneuver.
What?
We maneuver
What
the
rules?
tools required.
No, you can't say this and leave it. I'm asking you.
I'm saying that is
What
as
rules are you referring to?
no. Well, the rule is good that first to begin, the prize is political power.
What
We want to be
rules?
good.
I want to know what rules you think exist.
No, well, the rules that you would use is what is required to stay in power or to get power. What are the strategies that you going to do? And the strategies
But
is
you understand my question?
Yes, no, I comment it. The strategies is that how could I get the voters? How could I get those voters to vote for this party? How do I do that? The strategy is, what is the strategy? What could I do? Yeah? I know your strategy in terms of you are coming out with the truth. You are coming out to show the failures of the past political parties, which is true. And therefore you are looking at things. But the challenges the PP will face is the marketing, the media, everybody is against PP. You're coming out with the truth.
Okay, but I want to add this
But-
because you say I come with the truth, right? And if we are to be honest, we need to say there are things that have been done by both governments that you could say have been in the best interest of the country. I watched the work that was done by Colm Imbert when he removed all the traffic lights heading, we almost reached Curep now, right? I remember when you used to have to stop. Remember every couple feet, when you reach by Valse and you're still going through it, but the El Socorro, Aranguez, all that experience. So I think that was well done.
Yes.
I just don't know if we got value for money when it was done. That's my point. And I want to say to you, Gus and Devant at different times raised the issue about systems. You just asked on the way to make your point.
Yes.
You refer to rules. I'm not putting you on the spot. This is not putting you on the
but I will
spot.
explain to you.
Where do you think rules exist? Last
first
election,
begin-
the
first
Elections
begin-
and Boundaries Commission extended the voting time arbitrarily. The court eventually ruled that it was wrong. But it was already too late to reverse. That was it.
Yeah.
So we can't get permission and we can't get forgiveness. Trinidad lost twice. The reality of the situation is, and this is the point, until we get the people of Trinidad and Tobago together rowing in the same direction,
Okay.
we can't even have the conversation about rules and systems.
So
We don't know.
I can deliver something good to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and I give it to my brother to do it, and then we charge the Trinidad and Tobago 10 times the
Oh, God, yeah, that's-
and
that's-
so
that's
you know
everywhere. That's
so what the prize is sometimes in doing some of the good stuff. We do some of the good stuff,
No, but yeah.
but we also the
They
prize
know.
is
Those who are watching it, the supporters of every party know where the corruption is in this country. Trinidad, I mean, I tell people all the time, the people who bring in the drugs don't go down in the pirogue to take the drugs out of the pirogue. I mean, they don't.
Yeah.
So we know. Trinidad's small, people talk.
No, but forget the illegal part. Look at the legal part. The Attorney General of this country has gotten more money from rental revenue than AV Drilling got in the questionable oil deal that people are asking for.
They're still looking
Yes.
for the oil.
They still look. No, but forget what what they say was taken without.
It was
He was-
100 million with
but
ALP and it's over 120 something million with the rental.
continuing.
Yeah, continue.
But you see, and the fact that he was the Attorney General at the time the decision was made.
And the next building-
no, I'm talking about that building, the second building, 3, Alexandra Street. And people saying to me that he recused himself. They have two positions in this system of government that you cannot recuse yourself. The Prime
No,
Minister
no, I
and the Attorney General. You cannot recuse yourself.
No, I disagree with you. I think there's a practicality of it, and if you carry it to the court, I think it'll be argued. So I am part of the cabinet. I am the Attorney General. You are the Prime Minister. We're conducting the business. I had to go and pee. So when I leave the meeting, everything had to stop.
So not that it has to stop, but you're not going to make important decisions. And using
No,
your
but if I am
using your
saying-
analogy, and I'm saying this, regardless of who acts in his absence.
No, acting only obtains when you leave the jurisdiction.
Good,
So
right?
you could be
So-
Attorney General in the
So
jurisdiction.
you're saying to me that this decision to lease from Nazim was, what was the name of the company? Nahus and them, but it was a company. I'm trying to remember.
I think that's an house and company.
Right? The
I think
decision.
it was- I think it was
So
a
you
poor
say that if
decision.
Faris went to P, they could have made a decision and he is insulated.
No,
Yeah, I think it-
that company is, I forget the name of that company.
No, I'm saying I have
That
copies.
company owned one Alexander.
I have
You
a-
talk
I have
about
copy-
three Alexander.
Yeah, I have copies of the lease. I have copies of the correspondence.
Yeah, I have seen it too.
And at no
I think-
point
I
was
think
there an absence from the jurisdiction.
I think legally they may not have done anything wrong, but the appearance,
What about the Integrity in Public Life Act?
no, it doesn't apply.
But Devant, I saw,
Devon,
yeah,
you have.
I saw
I the integrity
Leader of the
commission
opposition.
that's customer. They
leader
told
of the
nothing.
opposition, about 2 months ago, I was in a meeting, and she produced an application for 1 Alexander Street in 2017, asking for change of use from residential to commercial. In 2017.
The one that they rented in 2010?
Yeah, before, yes.
That Patrick Manning and Faris.
And PP paid the government for 5 years, that was closed.
And
That building in 2017, they were applying for change of use. That was a residential
Property.
Let me tell you,
Chandra
I know what
Sharma-
you're talking about. It was raised in cabinet, right? About this rental of this property. The minister at the time, I can't remember who, come back to the prime minister and the cabinet and say, listen, we cannot, this according to what the bureaucrats and things, we cannot touch it. It's a ironclad contract. Similarly,
how is
no,
that
yeah,
possible?
No, yeah, that's
How is that possible?
The-
How is it possible that we could have written an ironclad contract?
we didn't write it.
Who wrote it?
That came from an
That person
Yeah,
should be
I
made
am
Attorney
saying
General for life.
That was
If it
not a
is
binding
possible-
contract. That was not a
That's
binding
because
contract.
you could break
But
any agreement.
I
That is
s-
nonsense.
Listen to me. I want to recall something.
No, yeah, that's not. You have to accept that within the bureaucracy itself.
Sir, I say
No,
to
I
you with
tell
an abundance of respect, I say to you that the term of a lease is the term of the lease. And that if you're looking at a building that cannot be used for the function it was leased for, that is an argument to break the lease. You could pay off the lease, you could come to an agreement. Michael Nahus said to me in public on social media that the Nahus family would have given up the lease. I don't want to go too far into this.
You see, you always run the risk
I wanna
of the
give you this
cost of the
story.
litigation as opposed to the cost of the lease.
I want to
and
give you
all
the story that Clive Pantin gave me. God bless his soul. In 1986, when they took over the government, and he became Minister of Education, the PNM, prior to coming into office of the NER, they were renting a set of warehouses in Dabadi, Style Right Garment Factory, owned by one Najib Ali. And they were there for about a year or two, empty. They were supposed to do the kitchen for school feeding or something. Now, when the government came into office and the Vine had to pay the rent, he called him. He called Najib and said, listen, I cannot pay you the rent. I'm giving you a key. Sue me if you want. And he gave him the key.
Gus.
No, but right now we have a
So
building
much
in
of
San
our
Fernando
money.
empty.
But I want to say
for a teaching hospital, it's empty. I raise it publicly, it's still empty.
Where's that?
San Fernando.
But
Oh, it's
is
empty?
there,
The teacher hospital?
Devon, is
Yeah.
there a way to get the information about all the offices of state renting buildings now and do an assessment to see if they should be?
You could do away if a private individual doing it.
They're costly.
No, it will be
I want
costly,
to get
it'll
back
be
to something I said,
time-wise.
Philip, that there is a group of people have access to every politician that can get to power. There's a group of people. That is how this thing remain unsolved and remain in place. If you understand what I'm saying.
Come back to price and strategy.
Is that group?
That's not the point. That is still the goal, and that is all.
And you know,
that
that's
has
where
driven.
campaign finance
Yes, and then,
reform
of course, your
comes
strategy
into
uses
being.
tools.
You have to bring campaign
Use
finance
tools
reform.
to get
No, but yeah,
people
that's
in.
not.
Okay, Timothy Hammersmith, former Senate President,
Right.
is one of the biggest champions of proportional representation.
Yes.
But the People's National Movement will never entertain proportional representation because it will be the death of the People's National Movement.
Maybe the UNC too.
Definitely the UNC too.
Yeah.
But the PNM is the government of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, how do we get the changes that we need to better run the country if the politicians that we're voting into government are the ones blocking it? Devant Maharaj.
the politician blocking it.
Who is going to bring proportional representation to the people?
I think it has to come from popular support and lobby.
How do you do that in Trinidad and Tobago, where people get victimized? We're on social media. If somebody is commenting on Devant's wall, others going to come to that person and tell them, you know what Devant into, what he does do. I tell them the reality of Trinidad and Tobago. And if they say, boy, give me a break, I supporting Devant, then they start to get attacked.
Well, that is the risk, especially with the PNM.
You cannot just sweep that off the table. That is an important thing, because that is where the Constitution is challenged in Trinidad and Tobago. We have no freedom of political expression.
No,
we have it in name.
Yeah, listen, let me tell you something, Phyllis. Look at what has happened in Guyana, right? Where the court rule election is due, right? It was and the vote of the parliament, they couldn't count and all kind of nonsense, right? Trinidad hasn't said anything. Guyana erupt because the people in the Guyanese national saying, listen, this is legal government and we force it. Nobody demonstrating. There's no, it's not like in the Yellow Jackets in France or the Leave and
because
Remain.
those are mature countries
Right?
that
No, but
take
that-
the government seriously. Look at Iceland. I was going to raise
No, but
Iceland
look,
as a point.
that political immaturity by all of us because of economic reasons or fear, whatever, has us where we are now. Because CARICOM is saying nothing. Trinidad
Chicken and egg.
Trinidad and Tobago is saying nothing.
So we'll bring it to a
But
close.
I want to see a point on that.
I don't know if you comment on Guyana.
You know, the sharing of
Boss, your hand's not full with Trinidad. You in Guyana too?
Yes.
the sharing of power by that. Let's say you can share based on the thing. Whether or not, because I don't know
What
if
you
it
mean by
is
on the thing? You gotta be specific.
because I'm saying
Proportional
that
representation.
yes, if it is shared, you get a certain percentage and the next party get a percentage. It's not fair if you don't have the power to not just talk, but to really represent the people who voted for you. In other words, we have, and where that power comes from, it comes from the National Treasury. So I'm saying that I would like to see that the money is shared such that that you have won 33%, and I am saying that your voters should get a share of the treasury to be able to get
So
things
who
done.
could bribe more will get more votes.
You see, and I'm not
So
telling
it's
no.
Who have
The
more
point
Congo
you're trying
fever.
to make, I understand the point you're trying.
Proportional representation must be
I understand the point you're trying to make, but
That's
proportional
right.
representation must be functional to the point where the government
Yes.
is instructed by the proportional representation.
Representation.
It's not just a show up in the parliament.
yeah.
No, but
We
remember,
are looking for MP work. But
when we
that's what
were
I said.
there, we had suggested a $10 million fund for each constituency.
Yeah.
And there was a big hue and cry. No, that we shouldn't do
No,
that.
because it's not set up yet
Yeah.
for that.
No, when we have
A proper-
proposed it.
no, but I'm saying to you that decentralizing the expenditure of the constituency to the constituency, not giving them $10 million, but at budget time have the constituency come to you and tell you, we need $821 million to do these things. But you have to give them responsibility for their, and that's why the Progressive Empowerment Party has proposed the abolition of local government. It's a waste of time. It serves no purpose. Abolish the way the police service is set up, the regional health authorities, and create a constituency board of supervisors. This will work. And if you think about it, a supervisor for public works, public utilities, education, healthcare, and security in each constituency, and fund
What
them.
make you feel that will work?
Fund them to
Fund them,
operate.
that's
No,
exactly
but what make you
have to
feel
fund
about-
them.
Because you now have 41 autonomous regions responsible for critical
So
issues. in
you
their
have just
constituency.
blown up the bureaucracy.
I'm not blowing it up
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
because, yeah, that's
you
not-
get, and we can have this conversation.
How it will be
invite you back.
administered?
No, I will invite you back and we could get into it because the details actually make sense. But I'm saying to you that the idea of giving funding, flowing from what he's saying, is a good idea, but you just need to make sure that they are accountable and that they can, that you don't give them 10 million and Jack run or Charlie run away with the 10 million. I remember I used to drive through before Ellerslie Plaza was built, where Ellerslie Plaza is. They used to have a massive billboard when it was empty land, and it said, when doctors get together, things happen. And it was going to be a medical center, and apparently one of the doctors went away with the money. And we ended up with Ellerslie Plaza instead. Remember that? This is Trinidad. And we still come back
So
to the fact-
what make you feel that the same people who doing things like that will now function and transform overnight to run that system in
No,
again?
because what you say is a fact. That you cannot just do more of the same with a different flavor or a different color. You have to put systems in place. You have to. We can't do these things.
Because the local
Without
government
the-
reform that they're proposing right now will do away with the local government ministry altogether.
But we only
Everybody
have,
now
we
report
only
to the
have,
minister.
we only have a local government because of the federation.
No, transfer the local
They
government
never-
to the Ministry of
The
Finance.
Gus,
yeah.
the whole
He goes transfer.
He become the super minister.
Yeah, he becomes so.
Hear this point. Everybody want to get into power. They make promises. There should be set up an independent group to ensure those promises are monitored.
And that's the problem. Finding that independent group. Because all of a sudden you
Okay,
realize you
no
sit down,
problem.
even the independent
but you must
senators.
deliver because you are
have to
working
make-
for the people
You
of,
could,
of
you,
Trinidad and you
even
have
our,
to deliver.
even our,
That is what the people
how
should.
is that not
that has
guiding
to
them
be done.
now?
Yeah.
How is that not guiding them now?
Because
No, why I would say to that,
nobody
you set up a
really-
group,
yeah.
but not with no independent. You set
Yeah.
them up with people with partisan interests, so all of them will watch each other, right? So,
No,
you-
no,
Well,
not
you'll
about-
have
not
to-
about
you'll
it.
have- no, yes, because at the end of the day, what we want is that the people of Trinidad and Tobago who have
you could
allowed
imagine
you
if
to
the
be power
EBC
to
had
deliver.
both government
Must
and
deliver.
opposition on it, and you put a retired judge or somebody like that or to be the chairperson,
That's not a chairperson, that's a referee.
or you're bringing a foreign national, a
Gus,
retired judge from
you see,
away.
you see, to
Yeah.
use his same argument, you blow up the political conflict because now PNM and UNC everywhere. The
Not
truth
because
is-
the EBC is a waste of time. They
Could we-
gerrymander
do
the
you-
budget, the boundaries.
Can't argue with you there. But do you think that we could ever get to a place, and I'm asking the table to bring this to a close, where we started. Do you think that we could ever get to a place that the people of this country cared more about the country than racist, tribal, get in your section, what me time now, we time, what's in it for me consideration? Can we ever mature to there?
I think we can, but not right now. I think probably in 2007, and I've been, from what I see, 2006 with the advent of the COP, people were more excited about the politics than now. Now people are resigned.
Yeah.
They are resigned. They have given up. That is the problem in this country. In 1981 we had it. So we're not mature. We were mature in 1981 for 90,000 people to vote against PNM and UNC. We had it in 2006. Right now people are laid back, resign, give up. I don't know why. And that's why we are stuck with what we have as far as I can see.
Devant.
I think it will happen, but incrementally and very slowly. Because when you look, you had 10,000 people marching for Section 34, which was led by the OWTU. Their pocket was not affected. Their jobs were secured at that point in time. And they partnered with the PNM to walk in front of the Wrongly Savannah to go and deliver a petition for the president. You remember that? My secretary, outside my office in St. Clair there, left the office. Now, my secretary writing all the stuff. Join the march. Walk and come back after lunch, right? They closed down Petrotrin. Roger and all of them workers lost in money, right? Down the bread line. People getting fired. They haven't mustered 10 people, much less 10,000 people, to launch a protest anywhere. So it gives you an idea how,
But do you
how
think-
painful and
but
how
do you
slow
think-
that change would happen.
So you think that it will come?
It
Do
will
you think
come.
there's an impetus or a precedent that needs to take place? Take Trinidad's economy. Somebody said to me the economy needs to collapse. Or that Trinidadians have to go through what the Bahamas going through now. Trinidadians have to wake up to the
No,
reality.
I don't think
I am
so.
saying to you that continuing as we go in is just a slow.
If the economy collapses, why we can't turn out? What stops us from turning out like Haiti?
Do
Right?
you think that the people of Trinidad and Tobago could ever put country first?
Yes, I think most of them do, right? And I think a lot of them who do end up migrating, right? The amount of people that live in this country right now.
When you drive in Highland Park and Mocha and see the amount of for sale signs,
You want to do something? Go when they have English as a second language test that you have to write to apply to Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom. Every 2 weeks it's a newbie. Over 150 people they sit down writing that test. All of them hoping to get out.
Felicia.
Yes, I believe it can happen, but only if the population feels empowered, only if they feel as if their opinion, their vote matters. As it is right now, we are jaded and apathetic because we don't believe, and it's sad because 1.4 million people can change the political landscape, but we as individuals don't feel as if our vote matters, as if our voice counts. So it can happen through a lot of education. It's a slow trickle process, but I think I'm always the optimist. Always believe it can.
Do you
Comment?
think we could put country
Yeah.
12 minutes.
Coming out of not being a politician, right, and entering into politics, it tells you my answer. I have hope. I am not a popularist, that I depend on popularity. I don't depend on popularity to do the right thing right. I feel that we have had a severe failure. I am hoping that we do not become like Venezuela. I hope that the people will have a change of heart from their type of voting, whether it be race, whether it be religion. I am saying to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we need change. We need to make this act right now. We cannot afford to waste another 5 years. The middle class is the only thing that remains to be decimated. The middle class. They have decimated all the natural resources that are available to us. They have decimated those income generating opportunities, and we have to act immediately to turn around Trinidad and Tobago. And I am one of them, and every one of you that stands out there, make your mind up that put country first.
Okay, and I said that was to bring us to a close, but then Kim prompted me to think something, and we're looking at systems and things to put in place. I just want to throw one more thing out at y'all. Recall. The ability to recall members of parliament, the ability for the electorate to organize themselves lawfully and fire an elected official who fails to perform as was promised. Would that make a difference?
I think the government that puts recall legislature into being would be the government that probably
Saves, right?
save Trinidad and Tobago, because that one thing, when I said empowerment, people don't feel empowered, and that one thing can literally change how Trinbagonians view the political landscape and their own democracy.
The power,
Yeah.
the political power. Devant, what you
I
think?
think it depends on how you're
COP
structured.
was a strong
Yeah.
proponent of
Yeah.
recall.
No, but it depends on how it's structured, because you run the risk of, if you have a depressed economy and you don't have the kind of finances to run as how people expect it to be. Because you see it all the time with councillors. I mean, Gus would know this as a mayor. And people feel that they're not getting attended to because of some kind of malice or spite or lack of interest by the representative. Whereas the representative hand is really tied because of the economic constraint. But he will get fired for that. So how you structure the right...
we always agree
Yeah.
that the point is it had to come down to make sense. But
Yeah.
the
philosophy, the point is a good point.
you
but how-
shouldn't have to elect somebody to office and wait 5 years if they're not delivering. If the Prime Minister
Yeah, see,
doesn't
but
take
if
action against Maxi Coffee,
if that
the
position
people of
is-
Lahoketa Talparo should be able to.
If that position is linked to the amount of resources that he has, right?
No, but you see, and I disagree, because I think that the first time you give people power, they'll abuse it. And I think we'll have a rush of by-elections. But I think even that is good. Even that is good for the election until people, for the country, until people settle down and realize, okay, wait, this has to work a certain
So
way.
we accept that in the short term we get
Trinidad,
damaged.
You're not going to get damaged, but what you're going to have happening is that members of parliament will understand that the vote into office is not absolute.
So I am the Minister of Communications, right?
No, I'm not talking ministers
No,
here.
no.
I am talking members of parliament, because
No,
it is the parliament that instructs or supposed to instruct.
All right, so I am an MP, right? And I write the Minister of Works or whatever, but the Minister of Works are $10. But your constituency is more...
I don't think it's
dire
only
than
money
it-
issues. I don't think it's only money issues. People are going to want to fire MPs for lack of representation,
No, but
for their
I
voting
think-
record. But that is where it goes in the
No,
developed
but
world.
let me tell you, I think, from my experience...
Trinidadians will
in
use it
gov-
for naked
No,
self-interest.
people have unfair expectations of
You
elected
say, you say naked self-interest will be the criteria.
I had a man call me 6 o'clock in the morning, tell me he just missed the bus and took 5 hours when I was chairman of PTSC. what are you supposed to
Send back the
Make
bus.
sure that there's more
Gus,
coming in next
No,
10
but
minutes.
Send back. Scold the bus driver.
if a bus driver come late, right? I mean, I
That
know.
by itself, the recall by itself.
But
I just want.
Yes,
Let me call the
because
bus
our
driver.
representative, as it worked today, they're not representing the people. Once they win the election, they go on their loyalty shift to the
Correct.
to the leader.
Correct.
They no longer
Vernon de
loyal.
Lima had raised, and I'm giving it back to you, but Vernon de Lima in the Congress of the People had raised, untie the hands of the cabinet, of the parliament. Let people vote their
No, you see,
conscience. This whip idea.
No, let me tell you something. I think
It's anti-democratic.
It is anti-democratic
No,
because
let
you
me-
have just
let,
so.
let me tell you why. I think a lot of us watch too much American TV, so we get romance with the issue of Congress and the ministers not being elected. You have a cabinet of secretaries,
You
which
cannot say what you just said
Sorry.
coming out to the Congress of the people.
No.
Because that was the foundation
no,
principle.
that's why I didn't stay there either.
Never.
Right? I didn't stay there.
You cannot say.
No, but we
You
are.
cannot say that
no,
deep democracy
no, but here
is a
listen.
romantic notion.
We have.
That's what you just said. And I
Yes,
cannot, I
the
cannot
concept
allow-
of democracy as articulated by Plato has been bastardized by those who came after. Plato's concept of democracy is for the educated and not
But the modern
not,
social,
not,
but the modern,
not for the masses.
but the modern socialist democracy models, those are working.
Like where?
Like Finland, like Sweden, like Holland, those are working. Countries where the people have say, where you pay a lot of money in taxes.
Well, that's the point.
Oh.
We
we pay a lot of money in taxes here.
we don't want to pay what we're supposed to pay.
But we don't get
We-
nothing for it. That's why.
We want things subsidized right through.
Gus, you will say. Recall.
Recall by itself is chaos. It has to be with a system that the people are representing the constituents. Right now, they really use them to vote, and then they shift their loyalty to the leader, especially if you are in government. Because he put you as a minister, he could fire you anytime as a minister.
Correct.
But the system need to change. We need a holistic change of the system.
You see, if you-
Unless we get that.
Yeah.
Under that, I could call for recall. Because under this system,
Remove the whip.
listen to me. Under this system, recall every month they will be recalling vex. I remember my MPs used to show off every Tuesday, 130 people. I see 130 people. But if he had to solve the problem of the 130 people, it will take him the whole 5 years. But every week he's seen 130
Do
people.
you agree? Recall.
You and
remove
your MP had a problem.
No, no. Yeah.
You and your MP had a
No,
problem.
but Gus, removing the whip.
No, you have to have control in the
You can't
parliament.
have control of the parliament. The people didn't come there as UNC or PNM.
No, but
That seat.
that system you're talking about is the
just-
American
no,
system.
regardless of you could come from Mars.
I wanna say
That
something
seat,
concerning
I just
the whip,
want,
you know.
no, but it's the whip I want to talk about.
I want to say,
you can't have
I want to say
recall.
an
You
experience I
can't.
have. I want to say an experience I had. As he said, my MP had control of 3 my councillors from my own party.
How we can have control of your council?
We had control over them.
No, that is you see this kind of hearsay and thing.
No, he had control of me. They used to more loyal to him than me.
How much are them loyal to you?
Anyway, we are split. Anyway, so we had things to vote on.
So
I
you-
called my political leader. I say, we talk about this in the party a lot. I want to open up the voting to conscious voting. Let me practice it very well. Let everybody be responsible for their own position and vote. I told him that.
Right.
No, your MP belong to the same party like you. Eh?
I was instructed not to do that. Go
When
with
Vernon
focus.
de Lima raised the issue, and I believe that was the most democratic thing I've ever heard. You say it's a romantic notion. But imagine, you see, the power of the prime minister is supposed to be first among equals. If you read our constitution, it's a romantic American notion. This is our constitution.
No, we have the Westminster. If it is,
Sir.
no, yeah, if it
So,
is, we decide.
We've just put an asterisk
Uh-huh.
in our constitution to remove somebody because they leave the party that you're elected on. The Speaker of the House, and that's something that needs adjusting, and I agree, but the Speaker of the House doesn't call you Devant Maharaj. It doesn't refer to you as UNC or COP or anything. The Speaker of the House refers to the seat you're sitting on. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah, but further, go back further to form the government. Those in one party.
It's
who
not,
will-
no,
the opposition.
it's not
yeah.
the party.
No, the opposition.
It's the member of parliament who commands the most support of members in the House. That's our prime minister.
That's the prime minister.
So
The
that's the prime
I think the
minister.
opposition is different. Check it.
regardless of how the opposition is
No, but
formed.
if it is, we have to.
Regardless of how the opposition is
No, but
formed,
if
in
we-
our Westminster system,
if we take
the
a
opposition
decision-
is only relevant.
If we take a decision that, listen, the American model is what we like, we should bring it
you're
here.
brushing past what I'm
We
saying.
should- we
the,
should-
the opposition is irrelevant.
How is that different from what happens in the UK?
I just want to say this. The opposition in Trinidad, look what's going to happen in the UK now in October. Our opposition is irrelevant except in matters requiring a 2/3 majority. All of that needs to be adjusted. I am not saying no.
But you
But
could
I'm saying
imagine
take us
governing
back-
a country.
Take us back to the
where
point
the
where
opposition
Devant is
could
the
stop
prime
you.
minister.
Where the opposition was,
It
sorry.
could stop you right through.
Absolutely.
You ain't doing nothing.
That is not true. Because we would learn consensus, we would learn negotiation, we would
And
learn
why we go in this learning process? What happens to the country?
what is the critical things affecting this country besides theft by government? China not war with nobody.
How much government get arrested for theft?
So that is another point. But the only critical issue to Trinidad about government is government event. Imagine a country where the prime minister is appointed by the members of parliament as the constitution dictates. And that if the members of parliament are failing to deliver what the voters want, they could change the prime minister. We need a country where the democracy goes that deep, back down to the voter.
But what stops the voter 5 years later from voting the same person?
Why does it have to be 5 years later? What I'm saying to you is this. Put in power back. What Felicia was trying
But
to do
then
is
let us do away with all of that, right? What we could have is a system where the
Continuous consensus.
the voters vote what they want, legislation they want, and instead of in this day of electronic
Yes.
decision, that when it come up for voting, every citizen put in a vote. Yes or no?
Not no.
And say we are 3 million.
No. Instruct your MP.
No,
Then-
but
Instruct your MP. If you as member of parliament
Then you
could
have
have a broadcast from and put out to your constituents that this is what we're voting on in the house. What say you? Yea or nay? So I know when
So,
I
but what you
sat-
need it for?
because that's what the House of Representatives was created
No.
for. So that we don't send 1.4 million people to town. We send
No, we are
Devant-
sending. We are sending
I'm
one
saying
for,
to
we
you-
have a tablet in town in
No,
a
no,
seat for
no,
Market
no,
Albaro,
no,
and we just check the votes
Let me say
because you have
something.
reduced.
that is
the-
an obvious transition.
No,
It's an
because
obvious
we are reducing the
Listen to me.
democracy to a numerical kind of thing.
I see Devant cutting down and beating on the United States system. I will say, Trump, as despicable as he is, the United States democracy will survive.
Absolutely.
Will survive Trump,
Absolutely.
in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Why
But-
why it will survive?
Hold
Because
on.
of the institutions.
Yes,
Absolutely.
That's coming to Trinidad.
We're agreeing on all of these things.
Yeah, right.
How do
I'm
we
coming
get
to Trinidad. I just want to say about something in Trinidad. That when last you see an MP hold a town hall meeting
That's the point.
to discuss a piece of legislation
That's
that
the
might
point.
affect them.
That's the
to
point.
get their opinion.
That's the point.
And to drive his opinion. When last you see that?
Devant wants lazy
Never.
politics. Devant wants to win and sit down in the house and vote his conscience. You are there as a representative.
You don't
of the
vote your
people.
conscience in the parliament.
So, that's even worse.
You don't
You're
vote your
voting
conscience.
when the whip tell you to vote. That's even worse. You are
If-
supposed.
if
Devant,
your
do you
go-
agree?
No, but if your
is it
government-
called, is it called the House of Representatives?
Yes.
And that means that you are representative of the people who sent you there.
That reducing it.
No.
It's called a parliament to
I-
speak, but you can't talk everything you want.
That's two different things.
No,
I watch
at
the absurdity.
You're looking at.
I watch the absurdity of drafting law and go down in the committee stage and come back up and vote on what the committee that we were just a part of spoke about. I watch the absurdity of how our government is hodgepodge nonsense. I watch Bastio Pandey fire 2 Tobago senators because they didn't vote with him and put 2 people who could. All of that is nonsense. All of that is wasting money.
So you want to take away now the right of the prime minister to say who is in
I
cabinet or not?
want the prime minister
No.
to continuously be accountable to the people through the parliament.
That system will not work.
So then where
You
and when
agree
does the people
That the prime minister and the members of parliament supposed to be continuously accountable to the voters.
Well, that's my question.
Yes.
If
First
not,
of
then
all,
when are they
we have
when
a
are they
system of accounting here.
represented?
Only at election
Philip-
time. Devant knows that model at the
Philip,
election.
we have no system of accounting in Trinidad.
Absolutely.
Because the executive dominate the parliament.
But if you read the
Now, tell me
constitution,
something.
our
and,
constitution,
and members of parliament, the opposition, they just talk and they draw a salary. That's all they do.
our constitution does not recognize political parties. You know,
Which country in the world where the president or prime minister is accountable continuously?
Most developed countries.
Which so Trump is accountable every day.
Iceland just fired everybody. Rwanda is leading us in democracy. Rwanda have the highest count of women, and they just achieved parity.
How they do that? By the democracy every day, they telling the prime
It's
minister,
not- no.
we're putting you in there.
Nobody is saying.
No.
Nobody. You're going from the sublime to the ridiculous.
No, but
I'm
how
saying,
do you do it?
Devant, we agree on a lot of things. And I want to tell you this. We agree on a lot of things, and we have to bring this to a wrap. So we're going to come back and do this again. But I want you to think it through, though. Because a lot of things that you want to accomplish should be done by popular support. We need to get the people thinking, you know what, we could get this, we could get that. It's time that we worked on these things.
No, but you
informing
have
and
to
educating.
appreciate too
A continuous referendum is what.
The cost of that, and then there's the other thing.
There is not a cost
No,
to that. Social media allows for you to do a continuous referendum.
And we have
almost for
seen
free.
with the American example of hacking social media. and the
No,
outcome.
that's another thing.
Right?
I want to make a
And-
little
so
point.
there's a real-
Well, all right, so then,
Just
so this,
a point as,
well,
as it
when you're
going on
making
the
your
table.
point,
Yeah.
make your closing comments one time.
Well, basically, what we look at is what the people want, and governments are put there to deliver what the people would want. Basically, what they want and basically what they need. The recall is a tool. It has positioned itself to give that accountability and responsibility to be done. Things that have to be done, the recall will ensure that that person is delivering. It's not probably not the only tool, or probably it has to be worked out properly, because the people are calling, hey, wait a minute, we are not getting what
Yeah, it's
we
a
promised.
toolkit of
and it's a
representation,
toolkit,
yeah.
yes, and there are other tools that we can utilize
Absolutely.
to make sure they deliver results. I believe that we are all patriotic in some sense, that we all want betterment.
Give people a choice and they will choose better.
Right.
You're
And they
believing
want-
in the inherent.
I believe that.
You're believing in the inherent
yeah,
goodness
yes,
of people.
I believe that.
I
I
want
believe
to
that
agree
there's
with you.
hope, and I feel that we should go down the road of hope. We must never give up hope that we could be better than where we are. What is better than where we are? Beds in the hospital, good roads, a good education system,
And a means to get
a
us
good judicial system,
said.
a well government. We
Well said.
need good things. We need to be, living life in the easy lane.
Kim Young Long, thank you very much. Gus, closing
Yes,
comments.
my closing comment. I will say that we have a democracy, but it is flawed. We do have a freedom of speech, apart from Sedition Act that we are
And
all
defamation.
going to campaign to be removed. But our democracy needs to be overhauled. It's not delivering to the people economically. This democracy is not bringing economic growth in this country. We need to do something else to get our people all together, working, productive. We are unproductive country right now. And that will send us through the tube if we don't address it soon. So, and I always vote in hope. I want to make myself clear. This election coming up, I'll be voting out somebody.
Devant Maharaj, closing comments.
I think we should be wary about employing populist measures as suggested, because governments from time to time have to take unpopular stands. For example, who would have voted to want to wear seatbelt in the days? Who want to vote for no smoking inside? And there are many other issues. Who want to vote for the
So you're
environment?
saying that the people.
I thought we closing.
No, but you're saying, but you just, but you raise points. So are you saying that that there are more people who want to crash and die or smoke?
No,
and-
because the prevalent thought at the time that was holding your back. You know, people used to talk that if you're in an accident and you have a
Make your
seatbelt,
point,
it
my
go
friend.
tie you down and
Make your
you
point,
will
make your
die.
point, make your-
How many people will vote for increased taxes? I mean, so there are things that government need to do because they are the government. And at the end of the period, when people have to either revalidate their mandate and the election, they would say, well, okay, your measures that you have taken, we largely subscribe to it, or we don't, and we take the appropriate action. There may be within that period some avenue to express their disaffection, or but there are issues that I think government need to do because they have to do it.
Well, I agree with Ghassan that our democracy is definitely flawed, and ways by which we can deepen it is have more representation of the people, referendum, I think it also needs to be backed by logic, of course, because just like you said with the seatbelt issue, I don't think many people would have wanted to vote for it. But also with what Kim said and closing on our topic, which is tribal politics, I think we as a people need to want better for ourselves to begin with and see that, I will look to the options that we have now to see if that's where we're getting, well, the solutions to what we want. Yeah.
Right, so this has been Plain Talk. I want to bring this to a wrap, dealing with a lot of what was said in closing, especially Mr. Devant Maharaj, who believes that Trinidadians don't think that seatbelt saves lives. So that we would not have voted with the government to support it. I want to disagree. I want to lean to Kim's idea that we want to look towards the inherent goodness of people and to choose things in their best interest. I know Devant has everybody's interest at heart. Maybe we could have a conversation another time as to the responsibility of government to educate the public so that they make better choices. That's another conversation. There's also, and I'm saying this also to contradict my own self, it can't just be a continuous referendum because minorities have rights. People who are on the minority side of a decision can't just be the sheep voting what's for dinner together with four wolves. So we have to have, inside of all of this, a national conversation. It's not going to be solved in one show or one conversation. But what is great is that we can have these conversations and hopefully we deepen our democracy ourselves. Stop waiting on parliamentarians and governments and politicians to give it to us and organize our own selves. Take our responsibility for our democracy seriously and stand together for a better Trinidad and Tobago. Until next time, this has been Plain Talk. Thank you.